This New Zealand native blends old and new in her music and her style. Hi, I'm Rebecca Brayton and welcome to WatchMojo.com. And today we're speaking with Kimbra. Something we always like to start with is kind of just the origin stories of the people that we interview. So I'd like to know how you first came to follow music as your path.
Music was kind of always a part of my life. I think probably first started getting really serious about it when I was in high school. Joined a jazz choir that did all these Frank Sinatra, George Gershwin medleys. Before that point, I loved going to musicals with my parents, and Andrew Lloyd Webber and that world of musicals is really exciting to me. Around the age of 15, 16, I just became obsessed with discovering new bands. I got really into experimental music and Miles Davis and a lot of sort of prog rock bands. And around that same time, I was picking up guitar, hoping to pursue music as a career. And then before I went to university, I got offered a contract with my manager to move to Melbourne and start work on a debut record. So yeah, that was around the age of 17. And since then, I've worked on it for 3.5 years, and I'm 22 now, so it took a while. I got high hopes, baby, but all you do is take me down to depths that I never knew. You've got to.
How would you describe the music scene in New Zealand?
Well, I live in Melbourne now. I've been there for 4 years, but growing up in New Zealand, obviously, nature and landscape was a big part of my upbringing. I lived very close to a river and would always go down there to write music. And the scene itself was actually really great. Because we're so isolated from the rest of the world, I think it pushes people to sometimes work harder to create something unique and original. There's been a lot of great bands to come out of New Zealand. I think just the population size makes it a little difficult sometimes to progress. So Melbourne was really fantastic as a city for me to grow in as a musician.
Love is like a
Now, you've mentioned quite a few influences already, but I'd love to hear who, if you could pick like your number one icon or idol, who would it be?
It's really difficult because there's so many different artists that have influenced different aspects of my music, I think, melodically, someone like Rufus Wainwright actually would be a huge influence on me, and Prince and Michael Jackson. But rhythmically, I actually get a lot of influence from bands like Battles out of New York, or more Latin kind of bands. Even I mentioned Miles Davis or some heavy metal. I listen to it for the rhythms and actually get a lot of inspiration from that. So it is hard to sum it up into just one person.
People like to make comparisons, obviously. How do you feel about being compared to people like Bjork or Florence and the Machine or something like that?
Well, for a start, it's super flattering that people would, put me in the company of artists like that, especially artists who have made a point of kind of keeping their artistic integrity and being kind of fearless in what they do. I mean, I personally don't think my music sounds a lot like those artists, but in some respects I have taken influence from what they represent and kind of their aesthetic. So yeah, I mean, I just think it's nice to be compared to artists that I at least admire.
That's for
those
sure.
I don't.
Yeah, plus, I mean, they're all pretty strong women as well, so that's
Totally,
always...
yeah.
Do you try to kind of blend the old and the new in terms of your sound?
I think that's just inevitable because I listen to a lot of old and a lot of new. I think whatever you're feeding your musical brain with is going to sort of subconsciously permeate whatever you create. It's not an awfully conscious thing. It's just, I think, what comes through. Yeah.